stream up on YouTube. That's what I mean when I say RV Live. Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Combo Couch. I am Fiorella Isabel, and I decided to do a little rant because I think I haven't done one of these in a while, number one. Number two, it's very warranted right now because I feel like everybody has lost their minds, and I think I'm not the only one that feels that way. I think collectively, a lot of us feel that a lot of people have just lost the plot, especially when you're in this segment of independent media, when you're on the left, and when you're seeing this happen in real time. Now, this didn't happen just suddenly. This has been a long time coming. And I wanted to do a stream kind of explaining that thought process because sometimes, I'm a very big picture thinker. And sometimes I think some people can interpret my words differently because I say things and they could sometimes mean more than one thing, unless you know me very well. But I wanted to go over that. I wanted to go over a little bit of the Russia stuff. We're going to do a whole segment with Pasta tomorrow because that's really, really, we're going to be really detailed. I have a lot of things to say for that, but I did want to go over some of the stuff. Now, this what you guys are seeing with the left, like a lot of people are coming to me saying, oh my God, I can't believe all these people are like cheering for war with Russia, or they're standing on the side of Ukraine suddenly. And they're condemning Putin because Putin is a right winger, or that's what they're told, that he's some sort of, right wing nationalist. And even if he is, who cares? Like, that's not the point. And I know several of my other, journalist friends like Caleb agree that we have a very similar take on this. Now, this isn't because I love, Putin, even though people tell me like he's never going to love you back. This isn't because I am like in love with Russia, or I'm just because I'm a commie or whatever. This is because of what I'm seeing so many people get wrong about this. There is a tendency on the left that's been exploited by the intelligence community, where they exploit people's emotions and they exploit this need to feel good about being on the right and moral side, which is it's a good thing to want to be a good person. But what happens is it's not coming from a place of actually wanting to get to the bottom of the situation, to get to the truth. It's coming from a place of like wanting to feel self-righteous about this. And so what's been happening is the intelligence community has been exploiting that on the left, on the progressive contingent, the Bernie Sanders, that whole sector. And it started obviously with Donald Trump's presidency. When Donald Trump was elected, all these people started calling everybody that was on the right, deplorables, fascists, Nazis. They were completely people that you wouldn't talk to. Whereas before in the United States, you would have disagreements with family members and you would still be able to have a conversation. People now are proud of never talking to their relatives ever again because X person is racist, X person voted for Trump, etc. Right? Even though a lot of these same people voted for Joe Biden, who is a segregationist, But it's just like they don't equate the Democratic Party and the Republican Party on the same level, even though they're two sides of the same coin. They're the illusions you're being sold. And so then, of course, it came to, as his presidency grew and the mainstream media was all about him, then it was like, oh, it's his supporters are all these Nazis and these patriots and blah, blah, blah. So the words freedom and the words, just liberal, like liberty and freedom became like a right-wing talking point. And then, of course, questioning the election became a right-wing talking point. When Pasta and I had been questioning the elections during Bernie Sanders's 2016 run, as well as the 2020 run, because we were literally there on the ground. We were looking at the machines. We were studying this for years. And we witnessed the fraud that happened twice. And so it was hard enough for some of these people to understand that, let alone come the general election, understand why people had questions about the general election, understand that we don't have fair and free elections. So obviously people are gonna think that they're rigged. And so then the whole, DHS came in saying that you can't question that, or you can't go against the government in any way, or you're some sort of domestic violent extremist. And then, of course, that led to that was right after January 6th, when people were cheering for the FBI to go after these people. This is people on the left cheering the FBI, cheering the intelligence community. Okay, more money for Capitol Police, making excuses, and cheering for the death of Ashley Babbitt. That one, I keep repeating that one because that one really got to me, because I was called a white supremacist sympathizer for saying that she shouldn't have been shot by the Capitol police officer she was shot. And this is because, of course, during the time previous to that, I had spent all of my time following the Black Lives Matter protests and hearing chants of all cops are bastards, and hearing chants of how we need to defund the police and all these things. And then that same left, that same sector of the anti-fascist left, was cheering on this execution and diminishing how, just why these people were there, and painting this whole blanket statement on that. And then, of course, during this time, COVID was ramping up, and the whole narrative of that, if you even challenged anything, if you even said the words ivermectin or something, you would completely be just entirely ridiculed with memes about horses and all of this stuff. So this is not, they don't do anything. And by they, I mean the intelligence apparatus, right? They don't do anything by just 1 + 1 = 2. The equation is much more complicated, and you need to be ahead of it in order to understand how to better predict it. Because if it's one of the things that I will give accolades to myself, Pasta, our show, and also our friends in the MCSC network, is the fact that we are able to predict things, not because all of us are clairvoyant, but because of the fact that if you just follow the money and if you follow the plan, it's the same type of plan. They just change the players and the names and the labels of whatever the situation is. So it's no surprise to me, or it was a surprise to me when I'm, the same narrative that they're pulling on COVID, where you just find so many lies. I thought that the vast majority of these people, even some of the people on the very left, would see through this more than they are. This whole manipulation of the whole Russia narrative, like that Russia is invading Ukraine, and technically they're not, because Russia is simply Putin. Vladimir Putin is recognizing the two independent nations. He's not going in there to take over Ukraine and expand the Russian Empire, like a lot of people in mainstream media are saying, which a lot of people on the left are regurgitating. And I'm going to go into the specifics of what I mean by that. But it's just crazy to me by what, I've just never seen this level of propaganda in people. I have never seen this many people propagandize. And it's all part of like the same type of thing. The weaponizing of emotions, the complete and total just brainwashing, using narrative management, using elite key people. So using like certain figures in not just the mainstream media, but in the progressive media, which has become the child of mainstream media. You can call it corporate media light. You can call it diet corporate media. I don't really care what you call it, but it's still tied to corporate media, because when you have people like the Kyle Kalinskis and the TYTs of the world pretty much regurgitating the same things that the State Department is saying, there's really no difference between them and a neocon, right? That only just the whole rebranding of a little bit of, well, we need to look at both sides of the argument, even though they're not looking at both sides of the argument. They don't even understand what happened to begin with. And so when this is happening, I sit back and I'm like, okay, this is 1000% just entire brainwashing. This is entire propaganda. You have a left that went from, in the 60s and 70s, a left that was anti-censorship, right? Like literally just harassing people to allow Nazis, or not Nazis, Klansmen to march on the streets and have their parade. The ACLU advocating for that. You had these people, in spite of, the hatred and all of that, in spite of that, you had a left that was extremely questioning a lot of the GMOs and the big pharmaceutical companies. I mean, March Against Monsanto was a thing. You had the Occupy movement. You had a lot of the people that were, the ones questioning any sort of vaccination were liberal hippie moms that didn't believe in big pharma back then. And then there was just people questioning big pharma in general, because big pharma has been poisoning the American people for decades. And then you also had the left that paid attention to the surveillance state that said, hey, we cannot allow, especially post the Iraq war, the surveillance state to continue expanding. Look what the Patriot Act did. And look what's happened since then. We haven't gotten any of these rights back, and we're not going to get them. We're going to get more and more of these diminished. And all of a sudden, right? And then you have the anti-cop left, anti-intelligence left, that they were like, okay, yeah, we don't trust the CIA. We got to abolish the CIA. We have to abolish these, the NSA, these entire just gigantic big brother type of agencies. We have to get rid of them. Suddenly, what you have is the complete and total death of all of that. You have the entire co-option of the left. The left is entirely just in the United States of America, and I'm strictly speaking to people in the United States because, like we've talked about it before with pasta, since we've been to Central and South America, what is left and right there means a completely different thing than it does here. When I talk about right-wingers in Nicaragua, I'm talking about like fascists with guns that are killing people, that are literally terminating people. When I talk about left in Nicaragua, I'm talking about people that are focused on economic issues, that are like trying to get people out of poverty, that are trying to really navigate the waters in this new era that we're going into with multilateralism, that are trying to figure out what they're going to do because they're being sanctioned by the United States. That's what I'm talking about. When I talk about the U.S. left here, the vast majority of them, except a handful of people that have managed to avoid the brainwashing, the mass formation psychosis. I'm talking about the people who, cancel people because somebody used the wrong pronoun, that decided that, the most important things were social issues before economic issues, even though without economics, you're going to have a very ignorant population that's never going to evolve on any of these other issues. And they are so quick to cancel anybody that disagrees with them as some sort of right winger or a Nazi. They're very emotional. There's no arguing based on logic. It's just straight up like, you have to meet all my niche little bullet points. And if you don't, then you're thrown out. And also a left that is insane in the sense of, they are trying to do the same thing and expect different results, like continuing to reform the Democratic Party, right? And we put out a video where we criticize the Marianne Williamson panel where they were trying to seize the House, which it's just that. That's also what I'm talking about. Those little slogans like seize the House. Like, you're not going to seize. What are you trying to seize, right? Like, you're not going to seize any of this because you're putting more people to run through this Democratic Party that's already a corporate, complete and total, just rotten to the core party. It's a complete and total part of the death cult. You're not going to save it. But somehow they think that just if they try one more time, they're going to continue, they're going to somehow have some sort of different result. And so that's what I mean when I say like the US left. And a lot of people come to me and they're like, no, that's not left. Those are liberals. Maybe, but that's what is known as the US left at this point. And I used to say that, by the way. I used to say that all the time. I used to say, no, those aren't real leftists. Those are just liberals. But at this point, that is what is considered left in the United States of America. So don't come at me and say, oh, but those are liberals. They don't count. No, it's people that I'm talking about people who consider themselves anti-imperialist, right? Who have been just talking so much shit about the trucker convoys, calling them right-wingers, calling them Nazis, calling them this. Yet they're making excuses for the Ukrainian neo-Nazis. They're like, I support the Ukrainian people standing up against what Russia's doing. They're literally regurgitating the State Department narratives while filling their entire mouths and filling their entire shows or whatever it is they're doing about these right-wing Nazis that are being funded by these right-wing oligarchs in Canada. When it's the vast majority of those people, if you look at the video footage from the people on the ground, not from mainstream media in Canada, not from some, co-opted communist bullshit website, but from people on the ground in Canada. If you look at those videos, Corey Morningstar is one of them. You also have the other gentleman, I forget his name, but the guy with the hair. Yeah. But a bunch of people that are there, right? You have a bunch of these people, and if you look at it's not like what it's being portrayed at all, but it doesn't matter. And that was another test, right? That was another narrative management test. Like, let's get the left to cheer for Trudeau's authoritarian mass surveillance, draconian measures to freeze people's bank accounts, and not just the bank accounts of the protesters, but also go after anybody supporting them. And let's get them to cheer for this, and let's get them to protest out in the streets and say, yeah, we want workers' rights. They're not fighting for the workers' rights we want, so we're going to go out there and protest against them. Oh, we're so awesome. We're the real communists. We're the real anti-fascists. No, you're the real dupes. You got duped. You're getting duped right now. You're continuing to get duped. And it's that whole, like, this has been happening. So now we come to the Russia-Ukraine situation that has been, by the way, going on for nearly 8 fucking years. 8 years this has been happening. I have never seen any of these people talk about this. Like, the vast majority of these people, there's a handful that have talked about it. The vast majority of these people had no idea that this was going on. They're just, because, you know why? Because even though people like the Kyle Kalinskis and the Crystal Balls and all these people, they act like they get their news from somewhere else, they still get their cues from mainstream media. When mainstream media turns and farts, they go and try to figure out where the smell is coming from, because they're still getting their cues from mainstream media. And that's the reality. That's what you have to realize about these people, is that they're not really operating in a different structure. They're just mimicking that same structure. They're creating the same parallel structures, the same exact hierarchical structures, which is why a lot of them got mad when Pasta and I put out that video, because we called them elitist and we called them out of touch, because they're not working class. They have no idea what it is to be working class and what it is to really not be able to continue to fucking vote for more Democrats, whether they're corporate or not. Like, they don't understand that. And so this whole propaganda, this whole thing, some of these people are propagandists and some of these people are they're useful idiots, but there's a segment that are controlled opposition, that are there to make sure that you never actually get some sort of actual awakening, some sort of revolt, some sort of opposition to what the status quo, some sort of counter narrative and another counter narrative to really what's happening. So I want to start off really quickly just on the Russia situation, because a little bit, by showing you guys the leaked audio of Victoria Nuland, where she literally said, because a lot of people, and I'm having these discussions, they're like, but Putin is a right-winger. Why are you supporting right-wingers? We don't stand with oligarchs. How can you, as a leftist communist, stand with an oligarch? That's not brave. You're being completely, that's like saying, why aren't you standing with, X color revolution just because you don't like some politician? Your feelings about Putin are completely irrelevant to this, because Putin, however you may like him, however you may not like him, what's happened is a direct result of our involvement. And I'm going to show you guys exactly how that is. So let's go ahead and play this video where Victoria Nuland is literally in video, right? In audio, via audio, exposing how the United States gets to decide who is going to be the leader in charge of Ukraine, and how they just so nonchalantly do it. This is an everyday thing. This is like whatever day of the week it was. And this is from 8 years ago, nearly 8 years ago. So let's watch it.
What do you think?
I think we're in play. The Klitschko piece is obviously the complicated electron here. especially the announcement of him as deputy prime minister. And you've seen some of my notes on the troubles in the marriage right now. So we're trying to get a read really fast on where he is on this stuff. But I think your argument to him, which you'll need to make, I think that's the next phone call we want to set up, is exactly the one you made to Yachts. And I'm glad you sort of put him on the spot on where he fits in this scenario. And I'm very glad he said what he said in response.
Good. So I don't think Cleach should go into the government. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you think, what, in terms of him not going into the government, just let him sort of stay out and do his political homework and stuff. I'm just thinking in terms of sort of the process moving ahead, we want to keep the moderate Democrats together. The problem is going to be Tony Book and his guys. And, you know, I'm sure that's part of what Yanukovych is calculating on all of this.
I think Yachts is the guy who's got the economic experience, the governing experience. He's the guy, you know, what he needs is Cleach and Tony Book on the outside. He needs to be talking to them 4 times a week, you know. I just think Cleach going in, he's going to be at that level working for Yatsenyuk. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Okay, good. Well, do you want us to try to set up a call with him? Is the next step?
My understanding from that call, but you tell me, was that the big three were going into their own meeting, and that Yachts was going to offer in that context a three-way, you know, 3+1 conversation or 3+2 with you. Is that not how you understood it?
No, I mean, that's what he proposed, but I think just knowing the dynamic that's been with them where Klitschko has been the top dog, he's going to take a while to show up for whatever meeting they've got. He's probably talking to his guys at this point. So I think you reaching out directly to him helps with the personality management among the three, and it gives you also a chance to move fast on all this stuff and put us behind it before they all sit down and he explains why he doesn't like it.
Okay, good. I'm happy. Why don't you reach out to him and see if he wants to talk before or after?
Okay, will do. Thanks.
Okay, I've now written, one more wrinkle for you, Jeff.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I told you this or if I only told Washington this, that when I talked to Jeff Feltman this morning, he had a new name for the UN guy, Robert Seri. Did I write you that this morning?
Yeah, okay. I saw that.
He's now gotten both Seri and Ban Ki-moon to agree that Seri could come in Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
So that would be great, I think, to help glue this thing and have the UN help glue it. And, you know, fuck the EU.
No, exactly. And I think we've got to do something to make it stick together, because you can be pretty sure that if it does start to gain altitude, the Russians will be working behind the scenes to try to torpedo it. And again, the fact that this is out there right now, I'm still trying to figure out in my mind why Yanukovych that. But in the meantime, there's a Party of Regions faction meeting going on right now, and I'm sure there's a lively argument going on in that group at this point. But anyway, we could land jelly side up on this one if we move fast. So let me work on Klitschko, and if you can just keep, I think we want to try to get somebody with an international personality to come out here and help to midwife this thing. And then the other issue is some kind of outreach to Yanukovych, but we probably regroup on that tomorrow as we see how things start to fall into place.
So on that piece, Jeff, when I wrote the note, Sullivan's come back to me, VFR, saying you need Biden, and I said probably tomorrow for an attaboy and to get the deets to stick. So okay. Biden's willing.
Okay, great.
Or an attaboy for Biden. Right? Like that's all Biden is, by the way, just in case you guys didn't figure it out already. So that's Victoria Nuland, right? She was the Assistant Secretary of State for Europe, and that was a phone call to the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Jeffrey Pyatt. And of course, this has been known information for a while, but a lot of people who are now suddenly acting like Russia had no incentive, like Putin, how dare he do this? Why is he doing this? Oh my God, I can't believe he's doing this. This is the United States government interfering in the elections in 2014. And there was a planning to overthrow the democratically elected leader, President Viktor Yanukovych. And that's who they were talking about. And of course, what happened is they took him out. just as they wanted. They put in their puppet. And one of them, of course, several of them had ties to the actual, like, real alt-right fascist, Banderite fascists of the region, the Azov Battalion. And so we did this with the help of these people that are neo-Nazis in 2014. And that's essentially what happened. And we're going to go more deep into it tomorrow. But I wanted people to hear that because I think that's an important aspect of what I mean when people, ask me, like, what do you mean Putin is invading Ukraine and he's doing all this stuff? He's not, without being provoked, this conflict didn't start yesterday. It didn't start 2 weeks ago. This conflict started 8 years ago. So I have a little chart or a little list of notes so you guys can really understand, like, what I'm talking about here. This war began in 2014, essentially, when this coup happened, right? And when we backed these neo-Nazis and we armed them and we overthrew the leader and put in our puppet. And since 2014, these neo-Nazis and these forces have been bombarding the region in Donbass, right? And they've been killing people and they've been shelling, and there's been just complete and total chaos in that region. An estimated 13 to 14,000 dead as a result of that. Those are the numbers for today. Ukraine decided to violate the Minsk agreements and completely, of course, NATO completely decided to also violate its promise to not expand eastward. It was something they had promised verbally, but they still violated it. And of course, that meant that the United States and NATO continued to expand eastward. The United States continued to put their military bases right near Russia's border. They still continued supplying neo-Nazis with weapons. And Zelensky basically became a prisoner of sorts. He became this guy that and he's Jewish, right? He became the guy that he couldn't really bring the Minsk agreements into accordance because then they would all turn against him and the whole house of cards would fall. And that's what would happen. But a lot of people say, well, Fiorella, they're not real Nazis because the guy's Jewish. So how can they be against Nazis? First of all, Nazis have collaborated with Jews since World War II. That happened during World War II. Second of all, also, the fact is that these neo-Nazis, this sector, is more anti-Russian and anti-ethnic Russian, specifically, and ethnic Slovaks and the minorities of the region than they are anti-Jew. So just because they're neo-Nazis, that doesn't mean that they are primarily anti-Jew. They're anti a lot of things. So that's not the gotcha that you think it is. And people have been using that as a reason to say, no, these aren't Nazis, because they can't grasp the fact that they are, in fact, supporting Nazis. Now, the Donetsk and the Luhansk regions that Putin just recognized as independent asked Russia for help. They asked because of what's been happening, right? And so initially NATO was trying to get Ukraine to join. That was the whole thing. And they were dangling all these carrots in front of Ukraine. But guess what? NATO thus far isn't sending any troops at all whatsoever. So again, you don't make alliances. You don't make alliances with warmongers. You don't make alliances with terrorists. These people are never going to be on your side, ever, right? And then China, of course, is on Russia's side because, again, I've been talking about this since Nicaragua. We are seeing a shift from unilateralism into multilateralism, into a multipolar shift. And that wasn't going to happen via singing Kumbaya and holding hands. That was going to happen with some sort of pushback from Russia, from China, from anybody, right? Now, how that plays into the global perspective of everything, I don't know yet, but I can tell you that China is definitely siding with Russia. I can tell you that Venezuela has recognized Russia, the independent regions of Donetsk and Luhansk. So has Syria, which is consistently, like last night was getting bombed. Nobody talked about it, getting bombed by Israel. And recognized by Nicaragua, recognized by Cuba. So you see where the axes are aligning. I believe Iran as well. So this is not just okay. Like this happened yesterday, and all of a sudden now all the media is just so focused on Ukraine and the poor civilians. Since when does the United States care about civilians? I could bring up Yemen. I could bring Palestinians up. I could bring up a plethora of civilians that the United States government has never given a crap about. This is just an excuse to promote their interests. And it should be very obvious, but I guess it's not to people because, again, this is how they get the left. I even saw Code Pink cheerleading, saying, oh, we have to oppose, you can still oppose the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, but you can still blah, blah, blah. Like they're both citing the issue when it's a very clear issue. It's very clear what's going on. There's a gaslighting going on by the United States on this whole issue. And so when I see leftists come out of nowhere, like they've never talked about this, they have no idea what they're talking about. You can tell. It's like with COVID or with elections. I know when you don't know what you're talking about because you have to know what you're talking about when you talk about this stuff. And they're saying all these things like, oh, Putin is an oligarch and he needs to be defeated. And I'm an anti-imperialist, but we need to sanction Russia because that's the only way. You're spewing bullshit. You're spewing complete total just trash. You're not speaking from a place of knowledge. You're not speaking from anywhere truthful. You're simply repeating slogans that you heard somebody else say. And that's all you're doing. And I wanted to put up Anya's tweet as well, and we'll probably put it up tomorrow as well. I thought it was a really great tweet. She said Ukraine's sovereignty ended in 2014 when the U.S. overthrew its democratically elected leader in an illegal coup and installed a puppet government. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what we just said. At least 13,000 people have died in fighting since then in a war fueled by U.S. weapons and neo-Nazi militias. This war did not begin tonight. And I said, I followed it up with the pro-war voices feigning concern for Ukraine have been silent for the last 8 years as the Donbass region faced tens of thousands of dead with bombing and destruction from a neo-Nazi regime funded via weapons and aid by the United States. Anyone ignoring that is pushing another empire lie. And guess what? These people are all ignoring that. They're all ignoring it. They're all saying, yes, but Putin isn't a communist. Yes, but Putin is, I support independence of sovereign nations. Yes, but whatever excuse. And like, look, do people suffer when there is any sort of conflict or war? Of course. Who suffers the most? The working class. Do I believe that Putin is some sort of innocent champion that is gallivanting on a horse? He's going to save the world? No, I don't. I don't think Putin is this angel of sorts. But that's irrelevant as to what actually happened and what the actions that he took were. And when I see people just spewing propaganda, I have to stop it. It's got to stop. And again, I'll continue with the tweet that I said, these actions that Russia is taking signal a shift towards multilateralism, right? Because this is proof that the United States and NATO are losing their hold. The regions asked Putin to intervene, and this should be between Ukraine and Russia. But the U.S. inserted itself long ago and is now trying to exploit the situation. The U.S. is right now attempting to exploit the situation for their own benefit. And the people that are supposed to oppose that, right? The fourth estate that's supposed to oppose that they're gone. That's the mainstream media. They're done. They're useless. Then you have the progressive media, which were supposed to oppose the rotten estate, are completely just bought out. For the most part, regurgitating the same thing. You have independent media, very few people discussing this in this way. You have very few people talking about how this didn't start yesterday, how it didn't start a week ago, how it started years ago. And you have very few people talking about what really is going on in terms of supporting, people individually, supporting these Donetsk and Luhansk, supporting these individual areas' sovereignty. Of course. supporting Ukraine's sovereignty, sure. But if you let that virtuous, empty virtuousness like guide you over what's actually the truth and what actually happened, then you become susceptible to being manipulated for any sort of propaganda. They'll tell you, like they did with the women in Afghanistan, that they they were hurting the women in Afghanistan, which is why we had to leave people there. Like this continues to happen time and time again. Now, I want to show you guys why this is just one gigantic corporate media propaganda narrative about Ukraine and how, they care suddenly about civilians. The United States cares, Israel cares, all of these neocon, warmongering, NATO-backed, just complete and total billionaires, powerful warmongers suddenly care about Ukraine and Ukrainian civilians, right? Which, by the way, Putin is specifically going, the Russian military is specifically going into certain places. And we'll talk about that too, because there's a whole other element to that. Yeah, you guys, probably some of you know about, but the bioweapons situation, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. But when the Democratic Party, when the Republican Party, when the mainstream media, when the pretty much just tainted progressive media and all these people and these warmongers and these warring states and NATO and all these people are like, oh my God, Ukraine. And they're feigning this sort of concern that they completely just, they were brain dead, I guess, for the last 8 years. You have to look at that and pay attention and understand, like, what you're being told is not the truth, right? And here is Israel that just continues to bomb Syria into fucking oblivion, that is in occupied Palestine, that is in complete and total denial about being an apartheid state, that is has Palestinians in an open air prison, and is completely, and I mean, some of these people, if you go to their profiles, they have land back on their Twitter profile. These are these Zionists, these people that believe Palestinians are second-class citizens. Well, here they are complaining about Russia and standing in solidarity with Ukraine against Russian occupation, which is hilarious. I mean, let's just look at them. So what more evidence do you need that if this is a support? And I'm not saying these people aren't real. These are real people, same as the people that are out in Ukraine and in other places. They're real people. They're just propagandized. They're duped. They're not understanding what's happening. That's how you create these narratives. That's how you create these cutout CIA type of movements and these type of executions, because they know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly who to target. They know how to target the 20-year-old Antifa, anarcho, blah, 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 with a fucking black flag that is like pro-mandate and like wants more lockdowns, but somehow considers themselves an anarchist. They know who to target. And the left is essentially just completely dead in the United States. It's essentially just completely co-opted. And it is heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking, and then it was infuriating, because that's how I operate. First, I'm like sad, and then 2 minutes later, I'm just like, just a dragon. Because it's just so, why can't these people see through this propaganda? Why are you all of a sudden, it's the same thing with COVID. Why did you question Big Pharma all the way up until this very specific issue where you stopped questioning it? Why do you question the State Department and everything? And you question everything that Biden has done, and then all of a sudden, no, we need to fight for Ukraine's sovereignty. Like, what are you talking about? This isn't about Ukraine's sovereignty. This is about these specific areas, these specific people that are being exterminated by neo-Nazis. you are siding with neo-Nazis. When you do that caveat, it's the same thing when people say, I support Palestinians, but I don't support the Muslim, like, what was it? It's a Hamas. Like, I condemn Hamas. It's like, okay, so you're leaving that area to manufacture consent. You're leaving that part. And it's really, to me, the epitome of hypocrisy when I see the vast majority of the people that could not shut up about the right-wing trucker convoy, right? The alt-right Nazis, all these people, look at them, blah, blah, blah. They're coming in there. Look at all, they're funded by billionaires, wrote articles upon articles, silent. I went to the Communist Party of Canada's page the other day, silent. There's like nothing on Ukraine. There's like one thing from a month ago, but they're not tweeting about it. They weren't saying anything about Ukraine, Russia. I haven't looked today, but as of yesterday, they weren't. And it's crazy to me, these same people that have so much hate for these domestic, supposed right-wingers, blah, blah, blah. But when their countries back neo-Nazis, I'm talking about armed with guns that are going to that are killing people. They not only stay silent, now they're like, you know what? They're not neo-Nazis. So I never want to fucking hear ever again. I never, ever want to hear any of these people ever call anybody a right-winger ever again. Anybody a Nazi, anybody anything. Because your credibility is shot. Your credibility is dead. You spent all this time calling everybody who disagrees with you a right-winger and a Nazi. And the moment the State Department comes in, manipulates and washes this information to feed your ego, that's like, oh, we got to support the Ukrainian, blah, blah, blah. Then all of a sudden you turn into a neo-Nazi supporting cheerleader, and you expect people to take you seriously. That is, I'm so done with that. I'm so done. Never want to hear them again. If you are any of these people that have been complaining about these truckers, have been complaining about the right wing, have been complaining, and all of a sudden you're backing these real neo-Nazis, because I'm sorry, but a trucker with a Trump hat or a trucker with a Confederate flag or any moron out there with a who thinks he's a Proud Boy is not nearly a tenth of a worry to me than Banderite neo-Nazis that this United States government is backing right now. It's not nearly an inch of a worry to me than the surveillance state and people like Victoria Nuland, these warmongers that can decide who they do or do not want as leaders of foreign nations they have zero right to opine on, let alone demand who should lead or who shouldn't lead. But they do. And you saw how quickly and easily they do it. So you know what? So done with that. And that's the art. That's it. It's RIP. Let's have a moment of silence for the left in the United States of America. They're fucking gone. They're done. You got Code Pink. You got the vast majority of the anti-surveillance state journalists somehow siding with the surveillance state. You have, I mean, I don't want to, I'm not going to name people, but Jesus Christ, guys. There's just like a handful of us left. It's insane. And you know what? And I think this needed to happen. And I knew that it was going to continue to happen. So again, let's see what the next thing is, because this isn't going to stop, right? And there's a lot going on right now. And there's a lot that needs to be covered. What happened with Syria. There's also Somalia as well. And this is, the empire, this is what they do. But I do not ever want to hear any of these people who call me, alt-fash or Red Brown Alliance and all this other crap ever come at me with that. You supported neo-Nazis in Ukraine. You didn't say anything for the first few years, and now you're blatantly saying it's okay because Putin. I don't like Putin, and Putin's a right-winger, and that doesn't quite fit with my communist ideology. So I'm just going to go from that, because I go from ideology to then decide what's the truth. I don't go from truth first. And that's the problem with these people, is they don't try to find the truth. They try to figure out if they like the person first, And then if they like the person enough and if they agree with the person, then they'll believe them. That's not how things work. That's not how reality works. Okay. And I'm coming for everybody. In case you haven't noticed, I'm coming for everybody. I am going for every single person that has so far just sailed away with zero pushback just because they have gotten away with so much for so long and they haven't had any actual opposition on them. I'm coming for all these people. And hey, join me, because it's going to take a lot of us to continue doing this, because the propaganda is so strong and the will to give in and to get a nice cushiony job is so there, that the seduction aspect of it is so there for a lot of people, but not for me. So that's all I got to say on that. And I want to thank you guys for watching and tuning in. I'm just, it's just enraged. It just enrages me to no end when I see people completely just leave their integrity and put it out the window just because the popular thing. It's so easy to go with the popular thing. It's so easy to go. Holy crap. I could count. Let's count. The Trump narrative, we went against it. The election narrative, we went against it. The COVID narrative, the January 6th narrative. Let's see, the trucker convoy. Do you think we do it because it's fun? This isn't fun. This is like mentally draining. This is like it's insane. It's exhausting every single day. And I think by the people who do this, with me and who understand, know exactly what we're talking about. This is like, it takes so much out of people. And like for people to say, oh, it's a grift. No. The grift is following the popular line. And I'm not just opposing things because I'm a contrarian. And I hate now that anti-imperialists are now using that term contrarian, that neoliberals introduced to discount what we're talking about, what the things we say. When we bring the receipts, when we bring the information, sometimes there is a right and there is a wrong. And the right here is to understand that Russia is really not doing anything wrong. And when you're siding with neo-Nazis, I think there's something to say to that. So I'm going to read some of these Super Rays. Thank you, Bubblegum Douche, for the Super Ray contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. Mad Wolf, thank you for the Super Ray. I would like to see those same people that wish war with Russia have that same energy as the nukes drop on them and their government that they love so much are underground saving their asses. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get there. I don't think this is this has been pushed as World War III. I don't think we're going to get there. But simply because Russia doesn't need the United States. The multilateral shift is coming, and that's why I believe that. I hope that that's the case. So why is the combo couch tipping? The combo couch has had on Mark Sloboda, who is an expert on the Ukraine/Russia NATO situation, 6 times in the last 2 years. Yeah, 6 times in the last 2 years. We also covered this, and it's hard because we covered it early on. We started talking about it in 2017. We covered it in 2018 with the beginning. And Pasta, I remember him saying, this is going to be big. This is going to like follow us for a while. And then, of course, with the Hunter Biden Burisma story, which, Biden, after all of that, Biden was the one who orchestrated this. That's what she said. She was like, oh, we'll do an attaboy with him. So they got him up to speed. And then what he did was he put his son on the board of Burisma. So they made some money there, right? Hunter C, go girl. I will always appreciate you solo feed stream. Your commentary and consistency is not only historically and factually important, but also from a personal viewpoint. Has taught me so much and shaped my worldview. Much love to the common couch. Aw, fam. Much love to you, Hunter. Deborah Wilson, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. That is very much always appreciated on the couch. Let me say hi to the YouTube people, the YouTube fans. Where are you guys? I have so many tabs open. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to find it. There you are. Glory Jones. What's up, Lori? Julie Love, Jack Flugman. I'm not gonna repeat that. You know, I don't like this. I don't like that we're losing people. I don't like, especially people that I thought would be smart enough to see through the bullshit. They can see through regime change. They can see through the manipulations of the CIA and the intelligence community when it comes to other countries, but they cannot see through these manipulations that are happening now, especially with the COVID narrative, especially with the whole framing of everything is right wing. There's more of an allegiance, and this happens because there's more of an allegiance to their cult. Whether, okay, you want to call it a cult or not, their allegiance to a party, right? Whether it's PSL, DSA, whatever. And that allegiance is placed higher than the allegiance to the truth. And that's what my issue is. You know, I may have my ideology and I have my beliefs, and, you know, I want to sit down and like, I think it was Steve or Pasta, that I want to have, like, you know, I want to have Caleb, and I want to have a communist, I want to have an anarchist, both, you know, discussing these things. But like, for me, it's like, what at this point, like, we could discuss and revel in where we're at and what we think. None of that shit fucking matters when this is happening right now. When you see and hear somebody like Victoria Nuland decide who is going to be the leader of this country and who isn't. What is that? What does it matter what you believe in? If you like communism, if you don't like communism, if these people are doing what they're doing, they're just going around and manipulating entire governments, entire regimes. They're killing people. They're moving people around like they're pieces on a chessboard. If like we're going to be arguing about, you know, oh, I don't believe in, you know, in a mixed economy, Pasta, I think that's dumb, like Pasta. And, you know, like, yeah, fam, but I think, you know, we need a little bit of this and a little bit of that. No, fam, I don't, like, why does that matter when these people are doing whatever the hell they want and they're shifting and framing the information to brainwash people continuously, especially younger people. And we have to get to the younger people, man, because I swear to God, like, the information they're getting on TikTok, on Snapchat, on Instagram, on freaking Twitch. Oh my God, man. Like, it is so bad. You know, I almost had a meltdown because my sister sent me some UK propaganda bullshit and I went off. Like, why are you sending me this? This is propaganda, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, how we really need to work on, because they're being so brainwashed, and this generation just has so much that's already screwed them from the pandemic and everything. So, guys, I've been just talking forever. I could talk for like ever, but we're gonna have a show tomorrow. It's gonna be good, and we're gonna go into I want to go back to the boring, like the specifics, like just bullet points of, again, on Russia, because I don't think people still get it. I think people are still, it's a lot. When it comes to foreign policy, it's boring, it's complex, it's all these things. But really, at the end, once you see it, you see how clear cut this situation is. And if I get frustrated with some of you, because it's because it's like, dude, like it's because like everything that's happening is just so immense. It's so intense. Like the propaganda, I have never seen this level of propaganda in my life. And I think a lot of people haven't either. So anyway, let's see. I think that's it. For the Super Rays. Guys, like I said, we'll be back tomorrow. Look out for that. We rescheduled a doctor that we were supposed to have on. Pasta rescheduled them. So we'll keep you posted with what we're doing. I have another article coming on Nicaragua and Nicaragua versus Costa Rica elections, and I'll share the link with you guys for that. But guys, I mean, thank you for the support. These are tough times. We've really got to stay on top of the propaganda. And yeah, I love you guys very much, and I'll see you guys soon. Combo out. Peace.